So some sort of explosive device, powerful enough to kill somebody, was inserted in these phones when they've been manufactured or during their delivery to Lebanon. Now, that is, as we say, utterly unknown at the moment. We don't know, but that is probably the sort of the most plausible explanation for that.
At least 9 people have been killed and more than 2,750 injured in Lebanon after handheld pager devices used by Hezbollah operatives exploded. The political party blamed Israel for the attack and said the country would get its fair punishment. Will Christou is a journalist based in Beirut. Will, good evening.
Good evening.
Just set out for our listeners, especially if they've newly arrived with us this evening, exactly what happened today.
So today, around 3:45 Beirut time, we started hearing news of some sort of security incident across the country. Ambulance started choking the street, and confusion reigned. We quickly found out that, as you know now, across the country, pagers belonging to Hezbollah members were exploding in what seems to be some sort of hacking attack. Up to 3,000 have now been injured. I'm standing outside of a hospital in Beirut right now, and families are gathered to hear news of their loved ones who are being treated. And we still have ambulances trickling in, bringing in new injured almost 6 hours after the attack.
Goodness me. There are some different theories flying around about what might have happened. What are you hearing on the ground there in terms of how this attack was facilitated? How was this able to happen? Such devastation over such a small amount of time.
Yeah, I would caution on listening to the series, because as of yet we haven't heard anything official, neither from Hezbollah nor from security officials in the country here in Lebanon. What we do know is that it was a sophisticated attack. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people were targeted by it simultaneously across the country. What people have told me is that they heard 2 beeps and then a pause, and then the pagers exploded. There's theories that these are a new batch of pagers that have been brought in the country. Whether they've been tampered with prior or hacked, we don't know. But what is clear is that it's likely Israel behind this attack, and they obviously have penetrated Hezbollah's, counterintelligence operation, and are able to carry out such a sophisticated attack across the country, seemingly at a whim, which has left the group and the country at a loss.
Certainly. Look, we shouldn't take away from that, of course, because it isn't just Hezbollah fighters who've been hurt here. This extends to citizens in the immediate vicinity of anyone carrying these pagers. Iran's envoy to Beirut as well. Just talk to us a little bit more about that.
That's right. This was, on its face, it looks like a targeted attack, but when you consider the details of what actually happened, the potential for civilian casualties, and indeed what we're seeing is that this attack left many people who are not the targets injured. There's videos of people shopping for vegetables in markets and shops when all of a sudden there's a giant explosion. People around them had no protection. And one of the first things to come out from this story is that a 10-year-old girl was killed when her father, who was a member of Hezbollah, was targeted, and his pager exploded near him. And from what we're hearing from a lot of people is that they just happened to be nearby someone who was in Hezbollah that was targeted.
People in the West are going to be interested, Will, on the relationship between Hezbollah and the people of Lebanon, the people in Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Just talk to us about how that works. We can sometimes concoct images in our head of Hezbollah being the bad guys linked to Iran, and so therefore if their pages go off, well, that is their own fault. But as you say, citizens have been affected. But just talk to us about the relationship. Who are Hezbollah to the citizens of Lebanon?
Right. So Hezbollah is it's a divisive group, both in the West and in Hezbollah. It has a lot of supporters in South Lebanon in particular, but it has a lot of people who do not like it in the rest of the country. With that being said, what we're seeing now is that, I've just been speaking to families who have been affected by this attack. I spoke to one man who said he wasn't a member of Hezbollah. He was in the medical professions. But after having his friends targeted in this attack, he felt enough anger that he felt like he had to take a side in this war. So it remains to be seen, if this attack, which was wide-ranging and affected people who weren't just in Hezbollah, will increase sympathy for the group within Lebanon.
Israel has long accused Hezbollah of supplying weapons, of the border with Lebanon being an easy way to facilitate weapons to Hamas. And bearing in mind that, and also that Hezbollah has squarely blamed Israel for this, does that seem like the most likely explanation, that somehow Israel, whether it's an operative being able to gain access within Hezbollah or within the supply process for these pages, does that seem like the most likely explanation? And if it is, what does that mean? What is the wider context of that?
So Israel has not yet claimed responsibility. Hezbollah and Lebanon have both blamed it for the attack. It seems, fairly probable that they were behind the attack, but it's hard to say without confirmation. What this does mean, though, is that likely there will be escalation in Lebanon and perhaps the region at large. Today, Hezbollah issued 2 statements, the second of which promised a swift punishment to Israel. So I think we will be seeing some sort of escalation in South Lebanon, which could likely include other actors in the region that are within Hezbollah's allies, including the Houthis in Yemen and militias in Iraq.
Well, it will. Do keep us posted. You are outside one of the major hospitals in Beirut. I know everyone trying to get an understanding on how everyone is. We know that Iran's ambassador to Lebanon slightly injured today. This is what Iran's Fars news agency are reported. A superficial injury, currently under observation in a hospital, is the quote there. Will Christie, thank you for being with us, a journalist on the ground there in Beirut. Let's speak to Tim Ripley, a weapons analyst and editor of the Defence Eye website. Good evening, Tim.
Good evening.
The first question I asked Tim when I heard about this was, how on earth was this able to happen? A succession, hundreds of pages in the hands or attached to people affiliated to Hezbollah, fighters, officials, all exploding within a 30-minute period. Just tell us how that is possible. What might have happened here?
It sounds like something straight out of a James Bond movie, doesn't it?
It does.
Well, 2 things. We've got to have got to turn these pages into an explosive device, and then you've got to have a trigger to make them go off. So now there has been a theory that they were interfered with and fitted with dodgy lithium batteries, because there have been, we've heard several occasions of lithium batteries causing explosions and fires. But that seems unlikely to generate enough power and force to kill somebody. So it suggests that these phones were interfered with during their manufacture or delivery.
Pages rather than phones, were they?
Yeah, pages. During their delivery to Lebanon and then distribution to these people. So some sort of explosive device powerful enough to kill somebody was inserted in these phones. So either when they've been manufactured or during their delivery to Lebanon. Now, that is, as we say, utterly unknown at the moment. We don't know, but that is probably the sort of the most plausible explanation for that. Now, the trigger is a bit easier because that suggests a cyber hack where the telecoms network in Lebanon has been compromised and some sort of malware is inserted in it to activate this explosive at a required time. Now, the fact that it's gone off at the same time suggests a sophisticated hack that has planted the trigger to set this stuff off at the same time. That is has the hallmarks of a sophisticated cyber attack, which could only be taken place or only be organized by a state, and which state has an interest in killing, injuring, thousands of Hezbollah operatives. There's only one of those in the world at the moment, and the capital city is Tel Aviv.
Right. So you are saying, Israel, and again, I should absolutely point out Israel has not claimed responsibility for this, but this is who Hezbollah are blaming Israel as well. Let's talk about the sort of, if we go back a stage, we've discussed whether lithium batteries play a part, and then a big cyber attack, someone being able to communicate with all those devices to make them do something or go off at the same time that then forces those batteries to explode?
That is a plausible
a theory.
Yes, or they inserted some explosive into the pages as well to make it even more powerful enough to. I mean, we have reports of people being killed, so it's got to be quite a powerful explosion.
Yeah. Some sort of explosive chip potentially, or it could be something to do with the battery. So, for that to happen from a security point of view, that means that an operative or operatives needs to have infiltrated either the manufacturing process or the supply process. In other words, we're talking about a massive security breach here, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. This is, well, I mean, it's either, really, basic security lapses in that Hezbollah bought these things from Amazon or off the internet or off from a.
They can't
an online...
have done, can they?
Well, it's how most people buy mobile phones and pages these days.
I know, but this is a sort of country's, military, maybe not official, but it is.
Well, but it is not. Lots of armed forces, and particularly guerrilla groups, use commercial tech and modify it for their own use. And pages, to make a 3,000 pages, you need a factory. You need, Hezbollah, they're clever guys, but we don't think there's telecommunication factories in Lebanon. It is a product of an industry rather than something you make up in your garage. So they bought them from China or from another sort of third world source. These things are made quite openly, and certainly pages are very much like yesterday's technology. Few people.
It does seem bizarre. And one of the head honchos within Hezbollah did instruct operatives to stop using their mobile phones. That was the instruction, apparently. Stop using your mobile phones, and instead these pages were dispatched.
Exactly. So on the the Israelis have a pretty strong record of using cyber security breaches to penetrate their opponents' communications. And lots of armed forces around the world use mobile phones as their communications. And we hear, I mean, the British government at its highest level uses WhatsApp to communicate. So it's not unreasonable to suggest a commercial communication device was involved in this.
But then someone would have had to have infiltrated that manufacturing process or that dispatch process in order to put the explosive chip in, potentially. Could it be something to do with the battery? We don't know. But there was some, common thread. There was a point at which these pages were compromised. And I think the big question really for everyone tonight, and I'm sure there'll be many discussions in Lebanon about this, is how on earth potentially such a simple thing could cause so much devastation, a massive security breach.